Okay, I'm back. Oh boy, it's cold outside. It's unbelievably cold. Well, I managed to buy some stuff that I needed, but a few things I couldn't quite get. So I have to postpone or give up on the project for tomorrow. That's alright. It was always it was a maybe thing anyway. I'll have to buy some bearings that are gonna fit my knife, or some that are bigger than my knife, then I can make an adapter for. So sorry to my potential customer who was hoping that I could get that done. It's just not possible at the moment. I was hoping to cut some vinyl, but back to the cat toy for now. So I'm stripping the wires here, twisting, get this thing connected. Let's see. Oh, you know what I did? And I shouldn't have done it that way. I connected the data. Oh no, that's okay. Because what I need to do is actually I need to connect this to a different data port. It's still going to be one pin, but it's going to have to be a different pin anyway. So yeah, we're still okay. And so our white is going to go to our positive, as we previously determined. The middle is going to go to our negative, and then our opposite is going to go to a pin. So this is our opposite. We need to tin these up real quick. Let's get that going. There's one. There's another. And the final. Is that tin enough? Close. Alright. That's probably good enough. Looks alright. Okie dokie. Man, it's cold out there. I wonder what the temperature is. It's probably like -2 or something. That's the low for today. It's Celsius. It's not the coldest place in the world, but it's colder than what I'm used to. Alright, so let's get this positive into our 5-volt positive area. There we are. Bend it over. Join the others. Join your brothers. Alright. Looking good, looking good. Alright. Good enough. And our negative. So all of our negatives are going to be the same. Now I was determining that I was going to go in this direction with the negatives. Suppose I should go ahead and do it. There's no good reason to go anywhere else. Looking good. It's all connected, I believe. Yep. Looks great. And we have another pin we're gonna have to connect to here. And this, I should have made this one longer so that it would reach. So what we'll do is we will just hope that it's gonna reach. We'll stick it in, and then we'll readjust our wires and see what we got going. Now this is gonna go into P2. Looks alright. Okay, let's see if that's gonna stretch around like we want it to. It ought to. I really hope it does. And it's close. It's a little bit further down than I had hoped, but that's okay. What we can do is just well, we'll have to make sure we keep everything in more or less an appropriate enough spot. And it'll be a little bit further south than what we had hoped, but I think that's still going to be alright. We could cut some new wires and make it taller, but I don't think it needs to be. And what we can do is make this one a little bit further down and just push our wire around a little bit, and that should be fine. And they'll be more or less in the same spot. I think that looks good. Okay, so now what we need to work on is our motor circuit. We have our sensors connected. We have the starts of our power sections going. So we need to first get a wire going here with our resistor to our pin 1. Now we're not going to run the resistor like this simply because it's going to probably short out on something. But we'll connect a wire here and run it over. And this is going to connect between our pin and our motor. So we got to figure out where we want our motor to connect. Our motor is going to connect into the motor power, but that's not terribly important. This can basically just go, I suppose we could just connect this resistor directly to the motor itself, something like this, and then have it inside. But to be honest, I don't really like that because I don't want it to connect, I don't want it to ground out or something is short. So let's see, we can just move it down a little bit and connect it pretty much anywhere that this thing will allow us to squeeze it in. We'll just go for the middle. Why not? Somewhere maybe right around here. Is that gonna fit? Okay. Let's pull our wires, make sure that they're in enough. We need to go one more over. We really do. 3 pins apart is not quite enough for a resistor. 4 should be okay. Yeah, that looks alright. So let's go ahead and solder that in, because that's where it's going to be. There's no good reason for it to be there other than the fact that that's kind of where it fits. Now we could solder it from below. It's going to be more or less the same thickness. And to be honest, now that I'm thinking about it, our transistor is going to take up a little space. What if this mistake that I made here could be quite a beneficial mistake, because I could take the transistor and kind of hide it in here like this, and that would be alright. And if I'm not mistaken, and yes indeed I'm not, as you can see here, our resistor is between our microcontroller and our transistor. So having our transistor, we might move it over one more and then have our transistor hiding in our little mistake here, our very lucky mistake, because it's a little bit fat. And so if we hold it straight down, I think it's going to stand out too much. So if we lay it over, that's going to allow us to hide our transistor in our little mistake area here, which I think is going to be a good idea. So what we'll do, we'll put our transistor first, and we're going to put it in these 3 pins right here on the end, just like this, and get it in there just about as far as we can, but we don't want to too far because we want it to bend over and hide. something like, well, the pins are a little bit in the way because they're kind of long, but something about like that. That looks pretty good to me. All right. Okay, looking good. So let's go with our transistor first. Wire that thing in just as it is. All right. Let's see. Let's get that in there. All right, there's one. There's two. And there's three. And let's go ahead and move our resistor. Oh, actually, wait. I don't suppose we need to move our resistor. It seems like it's in the right spot. It needs to be the middle pin. That's the base. And so if we look here, our resistor pin stretches pretty good. What we could do is just solder right along the bottom here. Since it's 2 bits of wire, we don't actually have to try to do anything special with that. I wonder if that's going to cause us any problems later. I don't think it will. I think we're okay here. So let's go ahead and solder that right there. This is all prototyping, so I'm not really going by any plan. I don't like to plan too much. As I said before, you plan too much, you never get anything done. So you just kind of, looks all right. You plan enough to get it going, and then you do it. For me, it's usually just a little bit of planning in the head, and then some doing. And when you run into a problem, you work around it, or you fix it. I want to cut my transistor leg there. There we go. That looks all right. All right, there's one. And let's see. Let's refer back to our plan here, just to make sure everything's going to work out. Yeah, that's really lucky that we actually had that spot right there. Okay, so we have now wired up this section here. We need to go ahead and connect to our pin 1. So let's do that now. And a little bit of wire. And luckily we have just enough here. We'll go ahead and take a bit of our gray section. And we want to connect to the other end of our resistor, which looks like if we go into this hole, we should just be just fine. And it's going to go over to pin 1. It goes right there. We want a little bit of extra space so we can bend this thing. So we'll go for somewhere right about here. Strip. On one end we want it to be a little bit longer because we want to go through the board and be able to attach to the resistor on the other side. We're kind of using this proto board backwards, but that's okay because we're still getting the right connections. And then on the other side, since we're going into the microcontroller, it doesn't have to be quite as long, but yeah, maybe somewhere right about in there. You can always just solder right to the top if we need. Okay, give it a little bit of tang. Still see everything all right? Yeah, looks like it. Good, good, good. Let's clean that up real quick. And the other side. That's not too bad. We got a little bit of plastic hanging on there, but there we go. That's better. I find that as you work more with soldering, you kind of get a little bit resistant to your fingers being burned, which I guess is a good thing, I suppose. And that looks good. let's go ahead. Well, let's solder into our pin 1, just so that we're absolutely sure that we don't use too much space. There we go. There we go. That's looking good. So yeah, I'm kind of slow at this stuff. I'm sorry. I like to be thorough. I like to think about things a lot, make sure I don't make any mistakes. I suppose if I planned more, I could be more sure, but more or less the same thing, I guess. Alright, did we get some, yes we did, nice. I was hoping, if I held it there just a little bit longer, that the gravity would pull some of that solder down, and indeed it did. Looks like we have a nice little connection there. I might even just touch just a little bit to make sure that it connects properly. That looks beautiful. Alright, now let's pull this wire over, stick it into our hole right next to our resistor, and we will move that over a little bit. We will solder those two together, and then we'll clip that long end of our resistor because it's really just too much. Alright, you might not be able to see this so well, but I can see it alright. Can you see that okay? Am I too far? I'm getting there. Things are creeping. Alright, looks good. Now let's give it a little clip. Just make sure we don't have too much extra anywhere. That looks alright. Okay, so we now have our resistor connected to our transistor, connected to our pin. So what we need to do now is just make sure that we keep track of our emitter and our collector on our transistor, so that we get the correct things going in the right places. So the collector is the is basically what you could call the plus side, right? And the emitter is the negative side. It goes into the collector and comes out of the emitter, right? You collect things and you emit them. So, all right. What we want, this is going to be on the negative side of our motor, according to our schematic. So, it's getting to be time to start thinking about our motor and the wires that are going to be coming in and out of that. So, okay, I guess we can take that out of the wood right now. Let's just have a quick look, make sure everything is okay. Our voltage in we'll also have to think about. That's going to be connected to the positive coming from our AC DC converter, which is, I think we're just going to stick it down here somewhere, kind of out of the way, and close to where the wire is going to be coming in to our bit of wood from down this area. So far, so good. This is a very simple circuit, so it really doesn't matter that our wires are kind of all the same. It's pretty easy to track them and make sure everything's in the right spots, in my opinion. Some people might disagree. It's always okay. Okay, so alright, here's our motor. Now I was talking about using some thicker wire earlier. This wire might be thicker. However, when I'm looking at this wire from the inside the core of it, let's just do a quick strip of this wire here and see what it looks like afterwards, because that wire is, I think, probably sufficiently thick, the one that I'm not holding right now. And actually this looks to be more or less exactly the same. It's probably also okay. Although this might be a slightly thin wire for the motor that we're running. Although we never even get up to an amp. It's always usually about a, what, quarter of a watt? About 1/3 of an amp. So it's probably okay. Yeah, let's do it. Let's go ahead and use this wire just because it's twisted, which is also nice. Kind of keeps it neat, but it also gives it a little bit of stability in the noise area. So what we need to do, I suppose, is first we need to run it in. See if we can't get it up and out through the, there we go, through the top. Alright, we're going to assume that the green is the red, and I'm going to go ahead and just use this little this spot here that is already marked as red. I don't know which direction this thing's going to turn, but that's alright. Does it matter which way it turns, really? Probably not. Does the cat prefer a right or a left spinning toy? I don't know. Personally, I just prefer to use pre-marked things. It's one less thing to worry about. One less thing to have to wonder when I look back at it. Which is which? So here we go, give a little tinning. Looks nice. Looks nice. Clean. Alright, so let's maybe untwist one more. Make sure we have enough space there. And let's solder this down. Green to red, white to black, colored to non-colored, basically. This contacts are pretty hefty. Make sure we get enough heat there. Oh, it's getting warm. That looks more or less alright. Maybe just a quick retouch. Get our wire down in the solder a little bit more. Embed it. Cover it 100%. There we go. Looks alright. Same thing on the opposite side, although the solder is on the inside on this side, but that's okay. It's interesting that they chose to do it that way. But looks okay. Yep, excellent. So now what we want to do, we're going to want to keep this, I think, in my opinion, a little bit of wire down at the bottom of this thing. We don't want to completely pull it all out, just to give it a little bit of space in case there's a little movement. A little anticipated movement, but movement nonetheless. Oof. Oh, great. You know what I just did? This spot where I routed it out just split on me, but maybe that's okay. It'll be a little bit easier to get down in there, and I can always just glue it if I have to. It's still a pretty good fit. Nice and tight. There we go. Alright, so if I look down in there, I can see there's actually quite a bit of space if I'm allowing it to be more or less flush, but since there is a little bit of a, what do you call that? Overhang? It's an overhang, it's something, but let's have a quick look when we put our top block on there. That, I feel like that's a little bit too much space. What if we push with the block? That looks about right. Yeah, that's just like a millimeter or two. And while this thing is not going to be 100% level, I think that's close enough. And when looking in here, and we still have a whole lot of space. So we'll just push a little bit of wire down in there. Not too much, just a little bit. And we'll have a little bit of wire coming out. We're going to get down to our spot we're going to connect it. And a little bit of extra space so that we can strip and whatnot. And we can always just push a little bit extra wire inside. Let's cut it right here. Looks good. Give that a strip. Especially if our strippers decide to suddenly start tearing wire in half, then we're going to need to strip again. But again, we are lucky. Although, is that stripped enough? Perhaps not, unless we're going to solder on top, which we might, so maybe it's okay. Let's give them a little quick twist, a little solder. Okie dokie. Tinning time. good. Starting to unravel a little bit there, but not into the insulation, so that's okay. Okie dokie. So, motor is embedded. I'm a little bit upset that it would split, but what can you do when you're... Wow, is that actually... It might be, might not be. It might be feeling the magnetism. I believe it is. Look at that. You can feel the magnet inside the motor. There's a little bit of wire that I have, even through the wood. Wow, those are impressive magnets. Okay, so let's see. Now I still haven't bought the power supply for this because I really want to try like a variable power supply just to see if 9 volts or 7 volts is going to be better, because I still haven't decided for sure which I'm going to prefer. So yeah, we're not going to wire up the power supply just yet, but we're getting there. We're getting there. So our green is our positive, which is just going to kind of, I think, sit right about there. We'll just solder that right on top. Can you see what I'm doing with my finger in the way? Hard to say for sure. Let's do it. It's about 3 points up so that we have a little bit of space for connecting. Let's go ahead and just put a bit of solder on the pad. It'll be easier to stick our wire into it. Oh, look, we're already kind of in there. That looks good. Blow to cool it down. And our negative, all of our negative is going to be shared. So what we can do, our negative wire, flip it upside down and back up to our negatives here. And since it's just kind of convenient, what we'll do is we'll stick it just below here. We're running right next to our positive rail. I think that's probably okay. Let's go ahead and get that pad first. Like I say, it's easier to push a wire into some molten solder than it is to try to get it all going at the same time. And make sure that it's really, there we go, really connected. Melted into the other bit of solder. That looks pretty good. Okay, so now we have our negative on our motor. Oh, you know what I just did? I just made a huge mistake. Well, that's okay. That's very quickly undone. Especially since I didn't go through any holes. Okay, we'll leave that there as it is. This negative on the motor is going to have to connect to the other end of our transistor. So that's going to have to be on the emitter. So let's see here. Our emitter is going to be on this leg over here. So let's just pull it over here. We'll stick it right there. That little bit of solder we stuck there doesn't really matter. It's not connected to anything, so it's okay. Let's stick this here. Alright. Let's put our negative onto the correct location. Get it all connected up. Looking great. It's an even better soldered joint than my last one. Okay, so that is the negative end of our motor connecting to the transistor. Now we also need to connect our diode and our capacitor from our negative points to our positive points, and luckily we are just enough space over that we can easily do that, I think. So this other negative point here, this negative leg, what we can do is we can bend it over to the side here, and what we'll do is we'll stick our negative DC connection here, and our positive DC connection here, or maybe up one more, and we'll get those all nice and done up. Have a little bit of space there. Okay, so since our positive is here, we'll stick our, if we have space, as long as we keep them on top, we should have space, since we have wires running underneath. So we'll keep them on top here, and we will go from our negative to our positive, because this is our true negative, I believe, on our motor side. Make sure I'm not making any mistakes. Right. I believe that's correct. Okay, excellent. Things are working out. You run into mistakes, you fix them. And maybe I'm making mistakes right now, to be honest. We'll find out when we connect it all up. And maybe you're following it better than I am, and you're thinking, oh my god, don't do that. Yeah, just give me some time. I'll get there. Okay, so we need our... Let's go ahead and use our diode first. So we're going to go from the negative side to the positive side. So let's go ahead and stick this one over here first. Now we can't, as I say, we can't run it through because we have this wire down here that's kind of in the way. If I had thought this out a little bit better, that might be nice, but that's okay, because it's really not a big deal. We have plenty of space to easily connect it from here to there. So I think if we clip this thing somewhere in this area and have another quick look. Okay, what if we bend this a little bit like that? Negative side of the motor. This is the emitter, so that should be correct. Bend it just a little bit more, and we'll just go down straight to our wire. Oh, that looks pretty good. I think we can go ahead and solder that down, and then we'll solder and clip our other one as well. I'm going to make sure that our silver side is going to our positive, because as we look at our schematic here, we see, can you see that all right? Yeah. Right? We want it to run back to the positive, so it feeds back into the motor. So, against the flow of electricity. Let's go ahead and tin the end of our diode, since we're going to be soldering it, hopefully without adding any extra solder. Stick that right there. Ooh, that thing gets hot quick. Oh, it gets hot all over. Are we still connected? We're still connected. It's getting a little bit thin. Let's see if we can't do a little bit a better job than that. That seems okay. We are connected. Seems all right to me. Is that a little thin? It's not as thin as our wires, so it's probably all right. But this is the perfectionist in me coming out. It's not always obvious, but it's sometimes there. All right, so now we're gonna solder directly to our positive wire, like this. Make sure that we get it. Yeah, just like that. That's a huge solder joint there, but that's all right. I'll go ahead and clip that. All right, so our diode is connected. We are connected through the diode. We're connecting our negative to our positive. Seems crazy, but sometimes it happens. Doesn't seem crazy if you understand it. It might seem crazy if you're a beginner, and that's okay. We're all beginners at some point. And now for a capacitor, we're doing basically the same thing. So what we can do, we could layer it, but I think we're going to try to stick it down like this. I think that's a little bit better. And then our as you can see, I hope our our collector, we're going to try to keep it in this bottom area. So we're going to stick this up here. Let's stick this left side first because we want to get it close as we can. But we don't want to get in the way of being able to solder in our positive and negatives. So something about like that, I think, looks pretty good. The capacitor, where it's coated, is not going to short out, so it's okay if it's kind of pressed up against that. Alright, personally, I think that looks okay. It's not bad. It's not the most beautiful work of electronics ever, but we don't go for beauty, we go for operability. Oh no, we're sticking. Come on. Should we try that again? Well, yeah, that's okay. That looks alright too. Now, if I can hold that there with my finger and also not burn myself and also get it to stick, then we'll be in business. Oh, that's perfect. And the other side as well. I need a little bit more solder. Since it's all basically the same solder joint, right? It's kind of long and it's connected. It doesn't really matter if we're actually running off of another component that is not, well, not what you would imagine would be the correct spot, right? But since it's all connected right here, it's all basically one wire. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's all those 4 wires, basically the same. So something like this, where our capacitor is technically connected to our diode, when the diode is connected to the wire, it's basically, it's all the same thing. So that is okay, in my opinion. So we will have still space for a positive connection here and a negative connection down here for our power. And while they're close together, things are often close together when you're building electronics. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, that's going to fit, and that is done. Right? I mean, it looks like it to me. And if I'm also not mistaken, I'm pretty sure we take the bit of the board that we didn't use and we pass it over things. Well, we get a little bit of a touch there on our capacitor. A little bit of a bump, and also a little bit of a bump on our diode. But when it's covered with the carpet, which has a thick rubbery section on the bottom, it's gonna be just fine. Shouldn't cause any damage. Cat's not gonna be able to get through it. Yeah, perfect. Okay, so let's clip off our stray ends just so that we don't accidentally get some shorts that we're not looking for. There we go. And that should be the bulk of our electronic work done. So what we need to do after this is just make sure that we connect this leg of our transistor to the negative, which will be this section here, the negative, the ground of our power supply. And we need to make sure that we get this green part of the wire connected to the positive section of our power supply, which is also connected to the positive of the motor, the green wire, the positive side of our diode and capacitor, which are this blob right here. And that's it. So, excellent. That worked out better than I expected. And now that I look up, I realize it has already been almost 40 minutes and my camera is going to decide that 4 gigabytes is enough and it doesn't want to hold any more information in one file, and it's going to turn off. So we're going to have to stop at least for a moment, and then I think we can probably start again and move on to the next section. But what that will be is probably just a test. We'll probably run some little temporary wires down a little bit, and then somewhere around in here we'll connect our permanent power supply. But for now, this will be just a couple wires going to our temporary power supply to make sure that everything is done properly. Okay, that's it for now. Be back soon.